Getting there. What's up, guys? Yep, I got it. We're doing what we can without Parks. What's up, everybody? Welcome in to Play the Fight Song College Football Show. As you can tell, we are without our host tonight as we are makeshifting. Parks decided to be a working man this week. We miss you, Parks. We'll try to do this as best as we can without you. Still joined with the boys, JP, Reese, myself, Jake. We're all here. Guys, week 7 is upon us. I think we can all agree this is the week we had circled on our calendars since, May, June, July.
Probably, yeah.
Right? So we have a ton to get to. Week 6, you guys crushed it in your recaps, Cam and JP. So great job there. But let's see if week 7 can top it. JP, how we doing tonight? What's the vibe on week 7?
Hey, the vibe right now is I have two different vibes. I'm pumped to watch the rest of the country. I feel like we'll get a real read with the possibility of a lot of teams getting their second loss. Iowa-wise, it's a must-win situation, so I'm a little nervous for the weekend. I'll be there in Kinnick this weekend for the first time this season. It's going to be a gritty one. Going to be a Big Ten football game through and through, but to miss some of these games, I'm a little bummed about, but at the same time, I got to be there for the Hawks. They're going to need me, one of 70,000, like me, I make the difference.
You're actually going to be in Kinnick Stadium on
Yes,
Saturday.
I will be in Kinnick Stadium in the family seats, so we'll do the good luck Pierce walk and tap Grandpa's plaque, and then we'll be in there ready to roll.
JP and Kinnick Stadium is kind of a rare deal. It's a special deal when Jordan is in Kinnick for a Saturday game.
Yeah, my family, we share between 13 grandkids plus others. Okay. We share season tickets, so we try to rotate. Everybody gets one.
I was gonna say,
get other tickets is usually pretty tough. Yeah, I usually take one, let other people grab, and then I'll end up at 2. So I'll be at least 2 this year. Nebraska is my actual one I reserved. I'm stepping in for somebody who couldn't make it this weekend, so I'm like, yeah, I'll take those. So I'll also be at Iowa, Nebraska on Black Friday, nightcap 6:30. Full stomach of Thanksgiving food, little ready to go, pumped up, drunk, and ready to rock.
Yeah, that's gonna be an issue. That's gonna be an issue.
Yeah.
What was the thought process? When did you pick Washington? Did you pick that in like August? You let everybody know.
One of my cousins did, and he was gonna go, and then one of his brothers wasn't able to go late, and he said, "Hey, you want to go?" Like I was like, "Yeah, I'll be there. I'll let you know. We'll see you bright and early in Iowa City, baby. I-80 East. That's all it matters at 6 a.m. on a Saturday."
Huskies, you're not in Seattle no more. Welcome to Iowa City. Peace. How we doing tonight?
Bad beer drinking fella.
Syracuse bye week. Do they got bye this week?
Syracuse, NC State.
See, I'm not up to date on my cues.
Wolfpack going down to Raleigh, brother.
So, but the 4-day weekend, you let us know you got a 4-day weekend this weekend. So, how much football are we going to actually get consumed? You're not going to another concert, are you?
Why do you guys judge me for that? That was like a nighttime
I'll be at a concert. I'll be at a concert
tonight. It was like 9 p.m. It was also a Post Malone concert. It was a great concert. It was a great time.
There you go.
But yeah, I'll be consuming a lot of football. I'm potentially going to try to go hiking somewhere in the Upper East here.
Guys, an outdoorsman.
Cool.
Yeah.
Shout out Columbus Day. Shout out for coming through over here and wiping out a bunch of people. Now I get Monday off, or I get a 4-day weekend for it. So shout out to that guy.
Shout out to Christopher Columbus, something I thought we'd never say on this podcast.
Hey, trivia time. What year?
1492. Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Yeah.
Come on, Reese.
History buff.
I had a history buff thing last night. I texted Jake. I said, please, for the love of everything, please tell me you caught Tom Fornelli's reference to the JFK assassination on Cover 3 today.
Right over my head.
Way over his head. It had to have been one of the funniest outtakes from a show that just went over people's head and nobody laughed at.
I haven't heard that one yet, so I hadn't listened.
Tom,
do it in podcast. That
guy gets such a good voice. Like he just talks. That guy's voice. You just want to.
No,
Tom's good. It's in the first 6 minutes of the show. Reese, listen in podcast form and just listen, and then if you catch it. I mean, it's like drop dead. I was crying laughing. And
got it.
So good.
Hey, yeah, I know we're jumping this a little early. Our show usually comes to you guys on Wednesdays. We're recording this 5:00 Central Time on a Tuesday, as the boys were kind enough to adjust to my schedule. As you saw in my Iowa State fan perspective, I will be heading out to the Appalachians this weekend, Morgantown, West Virginia. Looking forward to that.
Roads.
Wanted to jump on here with you guys because the game list is too damn good this weekend, and we got to talk about it. So before we get into all of our game breakdowns, as always, we're partnered by No Rivals. ShopNoRivals.com, the best hats in all of college football. Go to teams, request a new team. If you don't see your team on there, they're getting there, fellas. Like we might have all 134 in a year. Maybe that's the goal for them. And if you let them know plenty of time, they're going to do their due diligence and get you guys going with their sweet branding. The code is PTFS at checkout. That's PTFS, like Play the Fight Song, at checkout for free shipping. Let them know that Play the Fight Song sent you. So let's get into it. Where do we want to start, boys? I'm thinking Red River. Yeah, Red River Rivalry, Red River Shootout. What's the
rivalry?
What's the politically correct way to call it now? We're putting Red River Rivalry on the brand. So let's start it there. Going to Dallas, Cotton Bowl. JP, there's a lot of things to break down. I more so want to hear the Oklahoma side, but get us started, please.
Yeah, you want to hear the Oklahoma side, or you want to talk Oklahoma side, I guess is what you're...
I could hear both. I want to hear your perspective.
I want to talk Texas here. I'll start there. For me, this is a big one because Quinn's going to be back, right? Like, what does this team now look like with him back? And not necessarily just dipping his toes back into the water. He's going back into a game in which last year they wish they would have had. There is a real thought here that Texas is the best team in the country and seems to be one of the few elites. Now, again, they haven't really been challenged. They've played a ULM team who's been good. They've played a Colorado State team, Mississippi State, some others, not really challenged in any spot quite yet. And now we're looking at the Michigan win. Like, yeah, that makes sense if Texas is this elite brand and elite football team here in 24. For me, it's going to be a ton of how good can Texas defense be again, like against an offense who's still trying to find their way, against a young quarterback in this spot who's not as highly touted as a Caleb Williams that came in there and wrecked the game for him, a Dylan Gabriel a season ago. There's a real opportunity for Texas to just let Oklahoma know, like, we are better than you. We understand that we have the better matchup on the defensive front against your offensive line. We have better DBs. We have better athletes everywhere, and we're just going to suffocate you in this spot. So I think there's a real shot that Texas can show up and bow up and just be disgusting to this Oklahoma offense. Now, there obviously is that caveat where this game gets weird and you never know what's going to happen, right? So that'll be an interesting part for me. The offensive side of things, I think Ewers and his connections with the receivers, I think, have proven to be lethal in a lot of ways with Bond and other guys around the outside. The Oklahoma defense is good. Like, I don't really want to just brush over that and act like this is just going to be some easy get back rolling on the right foot. For Texas, there's a real shot here that Ewers struggles at the start against a team that's really fast and found a good way to keep themselves in a lot of games. So I'm excited to see what Quinn does. I think he's obviously the best quarterback on the roster. I think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the country, underrated, unnecessary hate the kid gets just because of the name that's behind him. And I think this team's at their best when Quinn's at the wheel. So I'm excited to see what they do. I really want to see this running game get going. Obviously, with the differences and losing guys before the season started and star power in that position from a season ago, there's a real who's up next. And I think they've kind of found a guy and gotten a little bit by committee on other times. So I'm pumped to see that. And so Texas, I think, has a real shot to prove that they are worth the 14-point line they're given right now and that they're worth some of the number one overall rankings that they've been given through AP polls in different spots.
We're kind of generous. I think I have seen 14.5 everywhere. I have not seen a 14. So if we get a 14, if we get a 14 for our picks, I'll be pretty excited. That being said, Reese, what's the blueprint for Oklahoma to stay in this fight? This game kind of reminds me of the Texas-Michigan matchup earlier in the season where Texas is going against a really good defense, but kind of an inept offense at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an Oklahoma team that we're accustomed to. Like this, we're usually thinking of a high-flying offensive team that's going to score a lot of points and give up a lot of points, but it's kind of the inverse this year. Offensively, they haven't been what they wanted to be. Arnold struggled. The reason why he's not playing. You have Hawkins playing now too. If they want to try to win this ball game, they're going to have to slow it down. They're going to have to make it ugly because if you give Texas multiple opportunities, that offense has so many weapons. JB just talked about him, and Ewers is coming back. And not to mention too, Ewers is a guy who he's played in big games. Not saying this isn't a big game, but he's played in big games. He's been in a college football semifinal. He went on the road to Tuscaloosa and won that football game. So you want to lean that guy compared to, your quarterback who's starting in his third game, third or second game for this team. So there's that factor. It's the biggest game he's played in. This is just another weekend for old Quinn, just coming off an injury too. So like I said, Oklahoma's got to slow this thing down and make it ugly. That's one reason why I think they can maybe keep within this number. If you get 14.5, I think they can keep within that. The hook makes it nasty, but Oklahoma's just got to do a lot of things right because that defense has been solid. I think they haven't allowed more than 25, and also one bonus point they did face Nico Miliava, who really struggled last week, but he's one of the better quarterbacks in this country too. So they've seen a better quarterback, I would say, than I think this Texas defense has seen so far.
Yeah, I think we're going to need an all-time performance from the Oklahoma defense in this one. And it's kind of funny, right? What would an Oklahoma fan do right now to have Dylan Gabriel being the starting quarterback in this game? If they probably wouldn't have backed that up a couple of weeks ago when they thought they had Jackson Arnold, now the Hawkins kid.
Yep.
But they're going to have to do what they got. And something to note, Texas is first in 4.4 yards per completion on defense. So Oklahoma, we already know they're banged up at receiver. They already don't throw the ball very well. And now you're going up against what statistically is the best passing defense in all of college football. So Hawkins going to have his plate full on Saturday. Do you know, JP, is there an injury report on Oklahoma's receivers? Like, is Anderson going to play? Farouk, do you have any idea? Does anybody know?
I haven't heard too much on it, honestly, and I was just actually looking through some things on news. I'm not exactly sure what day Oklahoma does their pressers for updates on that stuff, and so I haven't seen too much on it, and so that's a little worrisome.
I haven't heard anything as far as anybody being available, but let's go to it. Prediction time. I can get us started just because Parks was nice enough to give us 14 on the graphic. If I'm getting 14, fellas, it's Texas. Would I be scared with the hook? Not really. But like I said, this reminds me a lot of the Michigan game. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know. Like Oklahoma's defense could have an all-time performance, and Texas is still going to get 28, 31 points in my mind, like they did in Ann Arbor. And what was Michigan able to do? Score 6 points. There's some better athletes on that Oklahoma offense, but it ain't much. It ain't much. Yep. So I'm taking Texas, and I think Texas revenge game clean. JP, what do you think?
This game will forever be like, if you get a number this big, just go the other way. Do we remember a couple years ago when Oklahoma was playing their third or fourth string quarterback and that number got up there and that was just a slaughtering? I think that was the one year people were like, okay, maybe this is the year we don't. I'm hesitant to take Texas here just because of the number and how crazy this game's been in the past, but I'll take Texas here as well. I think, I just think there's too much for Oklahoma to overcome. They'll have their moments, but for them to stay around this thing the whole time, something weird's going to have to happen for the second year in a row.
Eileen Parks will take Texas. So that leaves you it's up to you, Reese. Are we going clean sweep here? Do you take the Longhorns?
I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna take Texas. I'll go the other way for you guys. I'm gonna go Oklahoma.
There he is.
There he is.
If you get the hook, I like it a little more. Even 14, I think you might get a push because the lower ranked team in this situation, this would be Oklahoma, has won 5 of the last 11 matchups. So this is also one too where was it OU's linebacker last year got a horns down tattooed on his thigh. This is a game that guys in both of these programs, this is one of the games you have circled on your schedule year in, year out. I think it's going to have a huge factor. I think Brent Venables, they're going to have a game plan. How well they can execute it, I'm not sure, but I'm just leaning on this is going to be a massive rivalry game, and they're going to be fired up for this game. And that offense is just going to slow it down. They're not going to throw it that much because if they're going to give Texas multiple opportunities, then I think they can break it open a little bit more. But I think you're going to slow it down, know what their game plan is, and they're just going to try not to deviate from it to give them more opportunities. So I'll take Oklahoma to cover. Texas is going to win, but Oklahoma's going to cover.
That's a great point. And I think, this is I think we can all agree it's top 3 biggest rivalries in college football. So to lay that many points, I don't.
It was my 1-1 draft.
The JD Pickle guy, Pickle.
Yeah,
I don't remember what he said he basically tweeted out that this game has always felt like an SEC game, and putting the SEC sticker on it just made it the greatest rivalry in college football. I was like, brother, this game was good before it had. You think it's just a sticker? Do you think the same about the Ohio State Michigan game? Because if you do, you're crazy. Just because a sticker's on the side of someone's helmet or on a jersey on a patch, it doesn't make the game bigger. Yep. I just disagree.
I completely agree, but it should be a good one in Dallas. That's Texas and Oklahoma. And also follow us at Play the Fight Pod to see all of our ATS boards that we post every week. I'm in the lead, but it ain't by much. Parks is making he's making a comeback. I think JP, you're above 500.
I think
Reese,
that's
you got
three games back of you guys or so.
I'm not.
Reese, you just need a hot weekend. Anything can happen. We're putting
Struggle
10
bus
games
over here, brother.
putting 10 games up on the board this weekend, so anything can happen. Reese goes a 9-1 weekend.
One.
All right, let's go to Eugene. This is, I mean, we could say it, right? Outside of Alabama, Georgia a couple of weeks ago, this was probably the biggest preseason hyped game all year. And it still is true. Both teams have showed limitations at times, showed some weaknesses, but we're still, I believe, 2 top 10 teams. Battle for probably who's best in the Big Ten. I think it's clear and cut right now that these two are the best in the Big Ten at this point. None other than Big Ten man itself. JP, get this one started for us.
Absolutely. We're going to get a chance to see Ohio State kind of open up the book here and really work through this offense that they have gotten very excited about with the hire of Chip Kelly, bringing in Judkins, already having Henderson at the helm. Now Howard's at the wheel of this absolute unit with a great offensive line that I feel like doesn't get talked about because the star power is so crazy on the outside and in the backfield. There is a real opportunity here for Ohio State to just tell Oregon, hey, I understand what you've done, and Dan Lanning's a physical coach, and he's brought in a lot of guys, but you still haven't quite hit that, up to par level with guys on this level. So there's a real chance for that, and that's what I kind of expect to happen in this game. Now, I think Oregon's going to present some problems, I think, with their ability to challenge Ohio State's secondary and really make sure that they are keen on their reads defensively and not getting fooled by just Oregon's creativity and what they do. Now, Dylan Gabriel is going to be that guy. I think most of his passes sit between 0 and 9 yards. They're shorter. They're going to, get the ball into Evan Stewart's hands and different playmakers on the outside and make Ohio State make plays on the edge. And they haven't had to do that quite yet. And I think that's an advantage for Oregon, to be like, hey, you haven't quite seen anything yet. Now we got to go full speed on the road against a team who I think Oregon's confident. I'm going to be honest with you. Like after that Boise State scare, I feel like they're way more confident. Michigan State was shut down easy. I know Childs is a good quarterback, but that team wasn't ready to play Oregon. And there's some pieces in some other games where Oregon's really found their groove. And so that's, I think, a worry for Ohio State is how do you sit in a spot and against a quarterback who traditionally doesn't make mistakes and find a way to influence your brand of football on the road in this spot? Because it's going to be crazy. It's going to be 6:30. In Autzen, that place holds a lot of noise, and it's going to be a ton of fun to watch. Will Howard on the other side, you're a little bit of a game manager too, but I feel like he kind of thinks he is taking a step up to like that big play guy, like hits a lot of big plays. And I just need to see it before I believe it. Like he's got guys who make plays for him. It's not necessarily because he's thrown some absolute darts. He's thrown good balls throughout the year and had a couple of throws that I was impressed with. But here's a chance for you to actually go do it. I think the difference in this game in a lot of spots is Dan Lanning defensively trying to scheme up and fight Chip Kelly. And Chip Kelly is just sitting at these joysticks right now behind a screen like he's playing video games. Like I have all these options everywhere, how to get them all involved in unique and creative ways that make the defense really think about everything really, really hard. I think I'll take Ohio State's offensive line. In the edge here, I'll take Ohio State's running backs. And the one running back they saw Oregon, Jeanty, had a hell of a day. And Boise State had a chance to go win that game, right? Now you're going to bring a two-headed monster with a running quarterback in Howard who hasn't really had to do much on the ground. I mean, he's a big guy. He's hard to bring down. Now, if we get him between the tackles and some read options or in some RPO situations, that's another wrinkle that Oregon's going to have to see. So, again, I don't want to understate like that Oregon's talented because I think they should have won one of those two games against Washington a season ago. I had Oregon making the playoff. I thought I had futures on them. I thought they were that good. This team, I think, is just at a different level. They're operating at a different level. They feel a little bit different than last year's team. And I think Lanning's going to give them that challenge of, hey, it's time to be physical. This is never going to get tougher than it is right now. You get a chance to do it in your own yard. Like, let's have a really good day and let's play Oregon football. Not make mistakes offensively. Let's bow up defensively, force them into some spots, and just trust our playmakers everywhere. So it's going to be very, very fun. And I'm pumped to watch this one because it's going to tell us way more about these two teams than we have learned at any point in time this season.
Yeah, I think the battle in the trenches, it's an all-time matchup this weekend. Like defensive line, offensive line from both sides are top 5. I think college football right now is as far as pure skill and physical talent. Reese, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you look at this matchup from you?
I think if you're looking at it, it's look at the schedule both these teams have had so far. They really haven't played. Ohio State played Iowa last week. That's a very, very good defense, but offensively not really there. But Ohio State's played Western Michigan, Akron, Marshall, and Michigan State and Iowa this year. Oregon has played Idaho, Boise State, Oregon State, UCLA, and Michigan State. Like this is their biggest game so far. So, and I mean, JB hit the nail on the head too. When Oregon played Boise State, they only won this game by a field goal. They were like a 20-point favorite in this game. G&T had almost 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. What are you going to do against this two-headed monster that's averaging 220 yards a game in that backfield? I think that defense is going to have a little bit of an awakening. Getting at home is huge. But I think, too, with Ohio State, you mentioned Will Howard. Although what was he outside, too? Chip Kelly, I mean, he left on good terms at Oregon. He went to go leave to be a head coach in the NFL. But it's like, this is a little bit of, going back home to where you were. I think he's going to be fired up, too, and he's going to have plenty of schemes. I think he'll recognize some holes in this defense. He's going to have a great game plan together going along with Ryan Day, who's a great offensive mind, too, as well. So, like you talk about the trenches, I also just lean Ohio State. I think they're going to have a little bit better coaching plan and scheme for this game going into it. Even though it is on the road, I do like them in the spot to win this football game.
Yeah, this one has me pulling each direction. On one side, I think that Oregon has been a much better team since they made the adjustments on the offensive line after the Boise game. Like, it's a night and day difference with that offense right now. I kind of like some of the steps that the D-line's taking. Now, does Michigan State have much of a run game? Not really, but I thought last week Jordan Birch and the Oregon defensive line really got after Michigan State. Again, early in the season, you have one common opponent between these two teams. It's Michigan State. Not the greatest opponent to really compare strengths and weaknesses, but still at the same time, on the other side, I mean, this is a statement game for Will Howard, right? Like, this is what you were brought into Ohio State to do. I think that Ohio State running the football and your good defense is going to translate on the road in any single matchup that you get this season. But it's going to be, I think, especially the 4-point spread in Autzen Stadium, it's going to come down to Will Howard and see if he can make a play on a final drive. So really interested to see that matchup. Here's what I'm going to do. I'll start us off with predictions. I think Oregon's been a different team since the Boise game. I really do. I think defensive line has as many athletes as Ohio State does. I think the back end for Oregon's getting better with, like, we forgot about Jabbar Muhammad. Like, he's in that secondary and he's elite.
Yep.
So you get Will Howard, who I'm not convinced is elite by any means. Who knows what Jeremiah Smith is going to be? He's been fantastic, but his first real test as a true freshman. I'm going to take the points. You're giving me more than a field goal. I'm going to take the Ducks at home. JP?
That's probably a fair thing, a fair assessment. The only thing keeping me from going a similar direction is I think that Oregon's struggled to run the football here. Like, not struggle. It's just not explosive. And Ohio State's shown an ability to be disruptive along the front seven. And I think that continues here. So I'll take Ohio State here. I think they win by one score. Like, I'm just going to go 7 here. Just in time, this thing's going to kind of grow as it gets later in the game.
Race.
I'm going to lean with JP here. I'm going to go with Ohio State. I think I had talked about this early in the year. I think this is a game that Ohio State, they go on the road and win. We'll see what happens at the end of the year when Oregon gets them like on a neutral site for some reason. I don't know why I think Ohio State's going to go in there and dominate on Oregon's home field. But I'll take Ohio State in this one. I think it's also going to be a high-scoring game, too. I think this is just going to be a fun one to have on TV because it's just going to be high-flying. I'm not sure how much dominant defense is going to be because they're just going to be doing everything they can to score the ball.
I heard a stat the other day, and I don't know if I got this right, but I believe a team who's traveling 2 different time zones on the road this season is 0-8 or 1-8.
I saw 1-7.
Okay.
Not great, nonetheless.
1-7, which
Penn State's got USC did it this week too.
It's
going to
make
stat.
It's not going to really make much sense when I get to a pick later in the show, but for that, I'm going to back up that stat in this pick if you know where we're going. All right, let's go to the next game, JP. We got another top-tier SEC matchup. This one's really interesting. Ole Miss heads on the road at LSU. After the craziness in week 6, I think we're cutting Ole Miss team some slack, wouldn't you say? After that Kentucky loss, I think people are maybe pulling back some of their quick reactions to what we think this Ole Miss team could be. LSU, on the other hand, has just quietly been under the radar. Everybody saw him in that South Carolina game, saw him in USC in Vegas week 1. I don't think we really know what we're exactly getting out of this team yet. So this is a really interesting matchup, a top 25 matchup in Baton Rouge, again at night, ABC. It's going to be just another awesome matchup. JP, what are your initial thoughts when you look at this one?
Yeah, I'm high on this Ole Miss team still to this point, you know, understanding that the Kentucky loss really put a wrench in their plans to probably be a higher ranked team and at a better spot to get an at-large. But I think this is an interesting matchup here because LSU's defense has improved. I understand they haven't been as threatened. South Carolina found some ways to score on them, and Ole Miss has found the ability to score on a lot of people. But I don't think their offensive line's great still to this point. I think there's a real opportunity for Ole Miss to score points, but give some up as well. I'm going to go to the other side. If LSU's got a really good offensive line, and they've been very good offensively the entire year, there is a spot here where Ole Miss traditionally loses this one. This is the one you kind of look at and you're like, you know, like get over that hump. In a lot of ways, LSU is just kind of sitting there waiting for an opportunity at this spot with zero spotlight on them, still winning games, doing what they're supposed to do against opponents they're supposed to beat, and they're waiting for this. And I think there's a real opportunity for Ole Miss to get on the right foot and a real opportunity for LSU to just stop it where it lays and be like, hey, we're still here. We're still a very talented football team with the hires defensively. It's been really good. Just getting guys in the right spot goes a long ways. Maybe they're not at the athlete prowess that they're used to being as an LSU defense, but I think this is getting better and better. And it's just a really hard spot for Ole Miss to just go in there and act like nothing happened and win this one.
Interesting spot for the LSU defense, as this feels like their first true test since losing Harold Perkins. Now, there are some experts out there that think that might be an upgrade. I don't want to really speak on behalf of that because Perkins is just a freak athlete, but maybe it stands true. We'll have to see this Saturday. Reese, this was your game of the year last year, if you remember right. Now, I don't think this is going to be a 65-55 matchup or whatever the hell it was last year. It's going to be, I think it's going to be kind of opposite sided. What do you think on this one?
This is one where you look at that LSU defense, and having this at home, I think, is massive. You'll have that actual Death Valley feel to it. I think that's going to hardest place to play in college football other than Rice Eccles. But I think that's a huge advantage for Blake Baker in this squad. You've seen LSU, like the blueprints out there, like this defense is still not nearly as improved as they were hoping it was. You know, so that you saw that USC and South Carolina game where they were able to put up points. Ole Miss has kind of looked out of sorts the last 2 weeks. I mean, you lose at home to Kentucky. Yep. You have that win last week, and you did win that 27-3. That was a good win. But, you know, Jackson Dart didn't look his usual self. I think he would complete under 50% of his passes. Trey Harris left the game with an injury. I think he's still questionable for this week. I'm not 100% sure if he's back or not. So, like, that's the thing you factor in, too, because if your best player is out, he leads the nation in receiving yards, that makes that secondary LSU look even better, too. So, I think there's a lot of things going on you factor into this football game. Nussmeyer's look great. LSU, that offense is still, you know, going to be able to go in there and put up some points. But I think this is a great test. Let's see what that Ole Miss defense is actually like. If you can do it back-to-back weeks, like I said, I used last week, I talked about how Ole Miss had game tape out for the entire week about how people were saying their defense was soft. They can't take a hit. Lane Kiffin can't coach. Can you do it back-to-back weeks and go on the road and win another football game in a very hostile environment? I think this Ole Miss squad is they've lost their last 7 on the road in Death Valley too. So can the stigma there too, and I think it's a tall task, but they might be for it.
Good poll there. And as somebody who had South Carolina in the points at home last week, when you look at the box score, you look at the final score, you would have thought Ole Miss just routed them from the beginning. It was a lot closer than the score really appeared. I do think you made a good point, Reese, that this Ole Miss offense just has not gotten a rhythm, specifically in the passing attack. But LSU ranks 97th in passing yards per game on defense. So maybe this is the time to finally get the wheels going again. Jackson Dart's last 2 starts, 14 for 27, 18 for 27. Kind of surprising he hasn't thrown the ball more than 30 times, especially when you have a Lane Kiffin high-flying offense. But I will say one thing that stuck out to me last week is that I thought the Ole Miss kind of solidified its physicality and its legitimate, you know, dudes on that roster as they kind of slowed down South Carolina. And then on the other side, does LSU finally have a go-to back like the Caden Durham kid, rushed for 128 yards. I know it's South Alabama, but I think that's the one position this team really needs to shine offensively because we know they have the receivers with Kyron Lacey. You know you have Garrett Nussmeier. The offensive line has NFL caliber guys. I think they just need to run the ball more consistently. So maybe they get it going here. They're going to have a test. Let's go Reese. Reese, start us off quick. Let's go prediction time on this one in Baton Rouge.
I really, really want to take Ole Miss in this spot because I do think they'd be a fun team to have around at the end of the year. But if you're going to give me the points, it's 2.5 on here, but I saw today at 3.5. Are we doing 2.5 or are we doing 3.5?
We will take whatever happens Wednesday night when we usually record.
Okay, well, I see LSU. I see 3.5 right now. I think it's a tough place to go into. It's Death Valley. Things get weird there. I think there's going to be points. We'll see what that Ole Miss defense is like. I'll take LSU in this spot to at least cover. I don't know a fucking score prediction. I couldn't give you one, but I think LSU's going to, if you're giving me 3.5, I think LSU's going to cover this number, if they win or they lose. I think they're going to cover it at least.
You gave me that stat on LSU and the last 7 games Ole Miss has played in Baton Rouge at night. Yeah. Give me LSU here.
Dang it, guys.
It just feels like a spot. This Ole Miss team doesn't get it done. They haven't. This is a more legitimate test than the Kentucky game. Like I would completely 360 the way I think about this Ole Miss team being a college football playoff contender. You're right. 360 would be back where it was. Good poll. But if they do get it done, I really think that this team is good enough to get that, I don't know, 11th or 12th spot. And right now that's where LSU's sitting. I think they're sitting at 13 or something in the AP poll. So JP, you had some comments. I'm assuming
I thought it was going to be unique on the LSU pick. And now I'm worried with even doing it because
Parks is going to say Parks will do it. He's a friend.
Really, because here's the deal. There's road favorites everywhere this week. I don't know if you've gotten this trend so far.
Yep.
But this is the second game in a row where we have a short road favorite, and I took the road team in the game prior. Obviously, Texas, Oklahoma neutral. Game after this, road favorite. Game after this, that road favorite. This was the most confident I was in a home team, and so.
Stick to your guns, man. If you're confident, stick to it.
Trust your gut, Jordan.
But we are just not great as a uniform.
No,
all across
unanimously.
So, I need to make up games.
Do we have a set out there for our unanimous picks?
I did a couple of weeks ago, and then I stopped. I think we're sitting at we were 4-6 a couple of weeks ago. I think we're sitting at like 6 and 10, 6 and 10, 5 and 8. Yeah, whatever it is. We've been making great picks. Like 3 of the 4 of us are above 500, but when we pick together, it's disastrous.
Yeah, nice, for that reason, the ability to make up some games here, I'll go Ole Miss. Just ATS board. Not confident at all.
Jordan, I'm a little disappointed in you. That was your confidence pick, and you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose out on money on that one. You're gonna be kicking yourself on Sunday when we see the Tigers win. I don't know. I don't know where Parks would go with this. I think he might have saved you and taking Jackson Dart in Ole Miss on the road, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. I'm feeling all right with where me and Reese are sitting right now. All right. All right. I was wondering where we were going to kind of go with this. Let's go Big 12. Let's go Big 12 after dark. Kansas State travels on the road to Boulder, taking on Coach Prime, Colorado, ESPN, 9:15 Central Time. I guess being as Parks wants to always call me. If Parks wants to call me the Big 12 guy, I'll be the Big 12 guy here. There's a lot of interesting factors that go into this one. I mean, all 5 games that we are previewing tonight, fellas, I have no read on, or more so, I do have a read. I could just see it going both of the reads that I feel like I have 2 different scenarios playing in my mind. And I'm like, I could see either, or I don't know where to go with this, but let's start with it. Let's start with Colorado, start with the home team. If Colorado's rush defense plays like they did against UCF, where that shocked the hell out of me and how they were physical with RJ Harvey, this team will blow out Kansas State at home. You can quote me on that. If the rush defense shows up, Kansas State's in a ton of trouble. Held RJ Harvey to 16 carries and 77 yards. They made KJ Jefferson get uncomfortable and play from behind, and KJ's not at his best when he has to throw 30 to 35 passes. I mean, I've on my Big 12 show somewhere in the middle, if you guys want to go check that out on our channel, I'd really appreciate it. I've kind of compared Avery Johnson and KJ Jefferson together. Obviously, two completely physically different
Not
guys.
the same build.
A little different.
Their success relies on the same things to happen, right? Like it starts with the running back, DJ Giddens, just like RJ Harvey with KJ. They're not great from playing from behind. Avery Johnson, to this point, he's a lot younger than KJ. Ceiling's a lot higher. I don't trust Avery Johnson to throw 30 throws from playing from behind. And that's going to be really, really tough. The Kansas State defense has shown some vulnerability. It's been solid for the most part. They got it done against Tulane when they needed to, created some turnovers. But I said this about Colorado last week. That passing offense can compete with anybody in this conference.
I think we said it preseason. We said this is the best receiving core in the Big 12 and maybe the country in some ways. Like,
yes,
it's good.
Yes. But after like what I saw against Nebraska, Colorado State, like the offensive lines was bad. Like
it's true.
What I saw in the UCF game completely changed my mind on what this team could be. Wasn't an anomaly. We're definitely going to find out on Saturday because there's nobody more solid than a Chris Kleiman coach team in the Big 12 conference. So we're going to have to wait and see, but I'm really fascinated. I cannot believe I can say that I do not love Kansas State in this spot. Let's start with Reese. Let's go to you, Reese. Any read on this Big 12 matchup?
You go to that. Obviously, the eyes are always on that Colorado offense. Like if they're going to go in there and they're going to have success early, it's obviously going to put a lot of pressure on Johnson, Giddens, and crew over on the K-State sideline. So they might try to force some stuff. But as long as they can stick to the game plan, Johnson, mobile guy, he can throw. He can make throws on the run, do what he's comfortable with. As long as they don't make him, as long as K-State isn't trying to make him be what he's not, because they're like that clunker is never what was going to happen. That BYU game. It doesn't look as bad now, but in that game, he was just not where they need him to be. If you're going to make him uncomfortable, like if Colorado can make him that plan, then you lean if that defense can have it, because you talk about that UCF game. I sure as shit didn't see Colorado's defense being able to do that and going on that road.
Yep.
That over still hitting that game. That was the best bet. Book it, by the way.
Yep.
But you talk about, it's a game at home on Folsom Field, so there's that advantage to it. But you have seen the very bad side. You've seen the bad side of each of these teams, but the Colorado bad side, that Nebraska game, like, there was just nothing there for them. They couldn't figure anything out. That line looked bad. I think Kansas State is going to have a plan defensively. They can get pressure to Shedeur. The guy can make magic happen, even if you get him out of the pocket. But if he turns the ball over, you're just going to give Avery Johnson, because they're going to run the ball if that Colorado defense does not show up and just eat at the clock and not give them time to have possessions on it. Big 12 is wide open. Colorado, I don't know how you have to win a Hail Mary to beat Baylor, but you do. I like Kansas State in the spot to win this game. You are going on the road as a favorite, but I still think this is a team, too, where they have big aspirations in the Big 12. That's a spot where you kind of get more realistic on Colorado. And not saying that UCF game was a fluke, but I think this Kansas State team is just better with Chris Kleiman and the group they have.
JP, put a bow on this one in Boulder before we get to predictions.
Yeah, I can do that pretty easily here. I think there is a possibility where the defensive front for Kansas State's too much, and it gets to a point where they just control the football game. And then on the flip side, it's Avery Johnson makes young mistakes and lets Colorado hang out in this one. This line's now at 4, which I love less than 6. But I'm telling you, somebody knows something if they want the number that bad. So it's a gross one for sure for Kansas State. And it's just get out of here. Just get out of there with a win in any way you can. Otherwise, you're gonna have Big X the Plug playing throughout Folsom and Boulder.
Hey, I'm a fan of that. I'm good. I'm good with Big X.
Great song.
Big X. If we get more Big X, if I've got to sacrifice Colorado winning to get more Big X, I might just do it. I think I heard a stat that something about it was like every home game since Coach Prime has been around at Folsom Field, I think they've all been a 1-score game. I think something like that, or 8 of 9 have been 1-score games. They're all super close. They're all super dramatic. Of course, the last time we saw this team at home was that Baylor game, and everybody knows about that one. I'll start us off with predictions.
Wait.
What's up?
Wait, did you say every home game for Colorado's been a close game since Deion's been there?
It's been like a one possession game, but not the one I couldn't think of was USC last year, but they did
They
come
got
back. I
close.
don't remember.
They had a chance to
Yeah.
tie it late.
I was gonna say I hate to call it our buddy because he's not here, but I don't think the Nebraska game was a one-score game, was it?
They won that game though.
Good
I think he's saying
point.
if they
Yeah.
lose.
Yeah, lose.
Oh, if they
or,
lose.
like,
Yeah.
My bad. My bad.
I don't think
Sorry,
in general,
Parks, didn't hear
because
something.
they've
My
blown
bad.
teams
Calm
out
down,
at
buddy.
home. Yeah.
I murdered that stat as well. But I mean, if you go back to North Dakota State, you go back to Baylor, Colorado
Yeah.
State last year, Arizona beat in a last second field goal, just to name a few.
Yeah.
I think
Damn, that is
much
good
of the
stat.
same.
Every loss has been a one-score game. Shit.
It's going to be
Shit.
weird. It's going to be really, really weird. I think Kansas State does get it done on the road, but I would take Colorado to cover. And
4?
yes, I think they'll win by 3. Here's the deal. I think Coach Kleiman and Iowa State's fans speaking here, I think they're kind of getting tired of the Iowa State's the best team in this conference talk. And Iowa State's got a huge trap game in Morgantown on Saturday, and which is obviously played a few more hours before this one. This is a big opportunity for K-State to take back the reins as they are, quote unquote, the best team in this conference, maybe after Iowa State loses in Morgantown on Saturday. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt until they prove me wrong. But a lot of Big 12 teams have proved me wrong this year. So, JP, where do you go on this one?
I kind of liked Colorado at a touchdown or more. I don't know if I
Ooh.
love them as much at 4. That's my worry. I'm going to go with Kansas State here. I'm just going to take the 4. I think the better team just shows through here in some spots. Again, it's going to get gross. It's just get out of there with a win. But I'll take the better team with a number like that.
Reese, you said Kansas State would win. Are they covering?
I think they're gonna cover. I just think you're gonna get a little more success. I think, like I said, that's I had this argument last weekend and it blew up in my face for a couple of teams, but Kansas State has a lot more ahead of them, I think, than this Colorado team. I think it's a team where at the end of the year they're going to be competing for a Big 12 title. I think a lot of stuff's got to go right for Colorado to do that spot. I think it's a spot where just a better coached football team goes in there and wins a football game, whether it's by 10 or 7 or 6, wherever the hell it is to cover that number. Kansas State finds a way to win this football game.
I do not see this number getting down to 3. Do you?
If it gets that low, I think I'm going to run and take Kansas State. If it gets that low.
Okay. We'll have to see if it keeps coming down. All right. Let's move down the line. We have one more game to cover. And boy, oh boy, again, this line is less than a touchdown, and the boys probably have no idea, but we're going to talk you through it like we do each and every single pick. Penn State travels on the road to LA, taking on USC. This is 2:30 on CBS. This is your CBS primetime game. Bounce back for USC after falling last week on the road to Minnesota. Penn State, I mean, looked fine against UCLA. Nothing is really, caught my eye as far as this Penn State team's concerned so far this year. We're going to throw it to you again, Big Ten guy. JP, get this one started for us.
USC last week just felt like the matchup wasn't quite there. I think that's what kept Minnesota in it and eventually gave them a chance to win it. And then they did win. It seems like that's a similar vibe here. Penn State does provide a lot of matchup problems that just don't make sense for USC yet. They've gotten a little more physical and played better along the offensive and defensive fronts. They're still not quite there yet. One thing that USC, if Miller Moss plays really well and plays good football here, can expose is Penn State's secondary in some spots. You saw Bowling Green have some shots at it. You've seen other teams on Penn State's schedule kind of have a shot to expose that in some ways. Now, they played really well against Illinois, but we talked about how Illinois wasn't explosive through the air. They were more looking for opportunities in some spots. I think this is going to get interesting here in LA. You have a guy and Lincoln Riley, who's trying to rebuild this program and rebrand it a little bit and what their identity is, and a guy in James Franklin, who's just trying to make sure this team wins more than if they win 10 games, it's a guaranteed playoff spot, but get over the 10 wins and just, playing in a non-playoff game. A wounded animal mode versus a team coming in hot, feeling good about themselves. I personally don't like this spot for Penn State. I think it fits well. Like USC's probably thinking to themselves, it's now or never. Like, we got to get up and go here. So with a number at 5.5 here, I'd lean USC here in this spot.
He is right. He is absolutely right. This one's gross. Ironically enough, when you're talking about Penn State and USC, both teams rely on the ground game first when it comes to the offensive playing style, which is something you really wouldn't expect with a Lincoln Riley offense. But like Marks and Joyner have been really good for USC, like they still rushed for over 100 yards on Minnesota last week. A couple of bad turnovers, from Miller Moss it's kind of set them back. Reese at home, wooded animal mode, like JP said. What's the recipe for success for USC to pull off the upset here?
It's such a trap spot. USC looks so bad last week, and Penn State's looks so good, but there's that stat where they're 1-7 going across the country.
Yep.
Like, my mind goes to this spot. I think it's like, I don't think Lincoln Riley's the head coach, but like I think this game is a fun coordinator battle. It's Tom Allen versus Lincoln Riley. It's Kotelnicki versus Danton Land. Like,
good call.
It's one of the you're gonna get a fun matchup. Like these are great minds all the way across. Who's better schematically? Who's gonna do more? I think Lincoln Riley is a little bit better of a coach, and he's got a better quarterback. But Kotelnicki's has been amazing. Drew Aller's looking pretty competent this year. I don't think he's as good as Miller Moss, but then that Danton Lynn, that defense has improved. But then again, you go on the road and it didn't travel. It didn't look that great last week. And then Tom Allen, that still Penn State is known for that defense. So who's going to have the edge here? It's really hard to know. USC had played great against, they were down 17 to Wisconsin at home, come back and win that game by double digits. So that's a thing you got to factor in here too, where even though if this USC team is down, they can find a way to clutch a straw and get back into this football game if they can get stops, because they have the weapons to make it explosive on offense. Penn State has issues running that football, then I think you lean USC, because that's what makes Aller a good quarterback, is when that run game is there, then things open up for him, and then it just makes him look a little bit more confident. This is such a hard one to do. That's just such a trap. I don't know which side to take, and I'm going to wait to get my pick at the end, because I'm going to see what you boys are going to do.
James Franklin said that Singleton was quote unquote very close to playing last week. So I'm assuming he's not going to lie to us and he's going to play this week. I know it's coach talk.
I think you want him.
You need him in this spot. I saw some clips on Twitter about just the pass protection when Singleton's in compared to Katron Allen, which Katron Allen runs the ball really well, but I think he misses some blocks that I think Singleton picks up, which is going to be huge for Drew Aller, because both of these teams are statistically top 20 passing defenses. So this is going to be a slobber knocker. So I'll get us started with prediction time. Puts me a little bit of a hypocrite here, because I just gave you the stat a couple of picks ago about the teams traveling over 2 time zones, or 1-7, like Reese said, but I will take the road team in this one. I think I've taken home teams on the rest of my picks. I don't love, we were all really excited about Miller Moss and how he's just going to do what Lincoln Riley tells him to do. And he's not going to try to create a bunch of plays that Caleb Williams tried to do last year. And now it's basically coming back to earth. And it's Miller Moss he's pretty limited in his quarterback abilities, isn't he? I don't love the pass rush he's playing on Saturday. With Joe, who's the other guys? You got, I'm drawing a blank on, Carter, and I forget the other guy's name. Is it Duran or something? I'm not a big Big Ten guy, but I do know that pass rush is going to get after Miller Moss and USC. So that being said, I will lay the 5.5. I think it'll get up to 7-point win. JP, give a prediction before Reese does, so he can go off our picks.
This is also down to 4.5, by the way, as of tonight. 4.5.
I'll take USC in the points. I just think it gets weird here. This is classic.
Me and JP, are we going head? Did you take Texas? Are we going head to head on everyone this weekend? Okay.
I took Texas. I don't like taking the road teams here, and I've taken too many already, but I tried to take Ole Miss to save your asses. So this one,
there you go. There you go. Could be the weekend for JP to make his comeback here. All right, Reese. 1 Penn State, 1 USC. If I had to guess, Parks is big pro, original Big Ten teams, even though his is not, and go Penn State here. So what's your call?
That's probably fair. It's such a bet. I don't like Drew Aller. I don't think he's that good of a quarterback, but I think Penn State's a better football team. I think that loss last week at Minnesota really shows something. But it's also a home game. Give me Penn State. The points. It's going to go down. Give me Penn State. I'm taking it.
It's the same thing that I said a couple of weeks ago. Penn State is lining up across the field, and they're not in maize and blue, and they're not Ohio State.
That's a great point. It's a great point. That's a great point. Love it.
James Franklin's his
Let's take
record against teams other than Michigan and Ohio State, I'm just going to bank on. This is a weird one, but yeah, give me the Nittany Lions. Give me the Nittany Lions in this
I
one.
love that, Chafe.
All right. That wraps up week 7, our previews and predictions. Fantastic games. There's, we could probably go another hour on this with 5 or 6 more games that we could talk about, but we will give you guys our G5 game of the week, our favorite play, and our dog's dog. But before we do that, take a minute, like the video, comment down below, subscribe to the channel. We're doing a lot of great stuff at Here to Play the Fight Song. Go check out my Big 12 show somewhere in the middle. JP's Iowa fan perspective on the Washington game will be releasing here soon.
Should be
my
today
West
or tomorrow. Yeah.
Perfect. My West Virginia preview is out there if you guys want to go check it out. Parks will be back next week as he previews Nebraska's game. I can't remember who they got on the top of my head.
Indiana.
But, oh, yes, road trip to Indiana. So make sure to tune in for that one. That'll be a big game in week 8. And as always, guys, we are partnered by our friends over at No Rivals. Shop norivals.com. Use the code PTFS at checkout for free shipping. And I apologize. That game is in Lincoln against Indiana. Don't have the Nebraska schedule on the back of my head. It's not one of my
Hoosiers.
Fellas, where do we want to go with this one? JP, do you have our G5 game of the week? We just got to give it a shout out at least.
How about a little action? Let's go NIU Bowling Green. Now, Bowling Green with a tough loss against Old Dominion in their last one. NIU's had a slip up against Buffalo. These are 2 teams I had at the top of the MAC in the preseason, and a couple of us were high on NIU and Bowling Green. I think this is 2 of the better teams in the MAC again, and I think it's going to be a ton of fun to watch. Like, if you're not prepped for Tuesday, Wednesday night action, this one's just as good on a Saturday. So, Bowling Green, NIU.
You know what I forgot about, boys, that we are recording this at 6:00 Tuesday night. We already have a G5 game underway. Let's go a little CUSA action. Liberty is hosting FIU, and then we got New Mexico State.
Wow,
New Mexico State, Jackson. Reese, we don't take Tuesday games for granted around here, right?
About Liberties and their schedule, and they're going to be undefeated, and they're going to get in because they're fucking stupid.
They won't get in. We'll save that argument for another day because I'm sure we will. All right, that was G5 game of the week. I am excited for that one. I think that could be potentially one of those 2 teams will be in the MAC title game. I will. Yes. I'll say it here, and this one is a huge one for that. I just wish
NIU needs this one. Yeah, if they want to be in that spot.
Wish they just wouldn't shoot themselves in the foot because both of those teams have looked really good for that G5 spot at the end of the year. All right, that was G5 content. Let's get to our favorite plays. Again, we're recording this early, so cut us some slack if we throw you something out there that just sounds absolutely gross. We didn't have a ton of time to put our notes together. We're just trying to get you guys content the best that we can. I'm not going to go first.
I'll go first.
If I am hosting tonight, I'm not going to put that pressure on me. Yeah. JP,
best
get us started.
Give me Iowa State, West Virginia under 53. I think the Iowa State defense is good. I understand the injuries along the defensive front and in the linebacking core. West Virginia, Garrett Green seems to still be getting a lot of love. I don't think he's seen a defense this good quite yet. I take that back. He obviously played Penn State.
Hey, JP.
Only human.
Be careful. We've had a lot of West Virginia subscribers in the last couple of days. We appreciate y'all.
I'm not anti-West Virginia. I'm anti-matchup. I don't think this matchup's good for him at all. I don't.
No, I agree.
I think there's a lot of things Iowa State does that gives them problems. And I'm not saying, and Iowa State's proven not to be high flying and scoring a ton of points, but they've proven to be efficient when they need to be in the run game and with Rocco not turning it over. So I'm going to take under 53.5. Or I think it's just 53. Sorry. Yeah, 53.
53. Yeah, I like that spot. Prediction that I made on the podcast would have that one being blown out of the water. As I said, I think I said Iowa State would win 35-24.
I'm surprised if you give up 24, and I'd be surprised if you scored 35.
Scored 35. Justin said the same thing.
I think 24. I think giving up 24 would be more surprising.
We'll wait and see. It could get weird. Reese, pick of the week.
I'm going to go one here. I'm going to go with a team that's been looking well. They came off a win last week going into Tallahassee. I'll take Clemson this week going on the road to Wake Forest. It's a big number, but I don't care. Wake Forest is a bad football team. Ole Miss dismantled them. Clemson minus the 20.5 right now. We'll see what it jumps to by the end of the week, but I feel like it's not going to stay there. But I like them in this spot. I think they're they're in the top 10 now, and I think this team has it all going. Dabo Swinney fired up. Everybody's been talking all this crap about him, and he's still got the Super Bowl team still, and they're going to win football games. So to give me the Clemson Tigers in the spot.
That's a good pick. Clemson has been an absolute wagon for me this week. I did ponder on that one, but I'm glad you took that, Reese. I'm just going to go with one of our predictions or one of our previews that we went with. I haven't taken it with my own money yet, but I do really like LSU at home this weekend. Just if you're getting a line that's basically a pick 'em,
yep,
it's a wait and see for me out of Ole Miss. Now I'm betting against Ole Miss 2 weeks in a row. They got the best of me last week, but we'll have to wait and see. They looked good on the road last week, but this just doesn't seem like a spot where Ole Miss usually gets it done. But fellas, what did we talk about all off or preseason? Like how different this Ole Miss team is supposed to be. So hypothetically, they are supposed to win this game. So we got LSU with the points. We got Clemson, and we have under Iowa State, West Virginia. Some good plays there. Also, shout out to Navy, the midshipmen, holding Air Force to under 12.5 points last week. Gave that out for you guys as a winner. Yes, I also gave you South Carolina.
I definitely thought
Don't bring it up.
That under also hit too. I forget.
Close. Air Force is just rough.
Air Force
the under did not hit. The under did not hit.
Damn.
Yeah,
that
Navy. I saw Navy as a lot of people's favorites last week. Good pick, really good pick.
I was just playing the odds there, man. I was playing the odds.
Did you give Navy out as a winner, JP?
No, I had Air Force as the dog. I was like, just keep it close. This is Service Academy. A little respect on yourself. Now your branch is a joke for an entire 365.
It's always been a joke.
Here's to put it some more perspective as I was scrolling through here. Try Air Force as a 6.5 point underdog at New Mexico.
Yeah, not great, Bob.
6.5 point underdog in New Mexico. That's boy, times have changed. Times have changed in Colorado Springs. All right. Let's wrap this episode up. Appreciate you guys tuning in so far. Nope. I know. Sorry. I was leading my way into.
He's getting there.
That's my bad. Sorry. Appreciate you looking out for us, though. As we always do, we wrap up our episodes with the dog's dog. What did, fellas? I know mine was an absolute.
This is disgusting, and I hate every piece of it, but I'm going to do it.
Mine was a loser. I was going to get to everybody's picks last week. Did we cover?
I got to push.
Mine didn't.
I got to push.
Mine
I got to push. I got
Lost.
Rutgers plus a 7. I got to push.
Rutgers plus 7. I took Rutgers live 7.5, by the way. What a bet.
Nice.
What a bet. What a bet.
Nice.
JP, what'd you have last week? You had Air Force?
Air Force.
Not good. Not good,
Oof.
Bob. That wasn't great. I think
Not
I had
great.
South Carolina or something. Either way, mine was
You did. Yeah.
gross too. So, JP, you were pretty excited to get going there. Give us our dog's dog.
It's gross. It doesn't make any sense, but it's a spite play, and I'm a little pissed off. Arizona State plus 6.5 against Utah. Gross.
Ooh.
Does it?
I actually
they
like
may not score
That's a
many
dog,
points,
though.
but I am
Dogs,
just
you don't
so
always feel that
sick
good
of this
about.
rising back and forth. And I just fuck around and find out again. Like you might. Like Tempe's, they're confident right now. They're feeling good about themselves. I understand that Scatabo and that offense isn't incredible and the defense isn't great. And Utah's been stout defensively even when they've lost games. Just getting angry with it, man. Give me 6.5.
Good pick there. I think right now is the time to go take 45.5 under in that game. Like I see Utah winning 13-10. Like I
might make that thing ugly and just run it.
Yeah, run the ball. We don't know what we're getting out of Arizona or sorry, Utah's offense at this point. I really like the under in that play, but that's besides the point. Reese, your dog's dog of the week is.
Yeah, I mean, you took it with your best bet. I was going to take LSU at home. I'll stay away from that now since that's already taken. I'm scrolling frantically to try to look to see if I can see a second one. Didn't find one in time. So I'm going to go Arizona plus the 4.5 on the road in Provo. I mean, this team did beat Utah a couple weeks ago. Let's see if a feed-in crew, let's see if they can get something going. I'll take Arizona in this spot. Maybe they'll take that. They don't got to take them down, but they can at least cover the 4.5.
Well, fellas, I've got good news for you. Good news is you picked 2 Big 12 underdogs. Why is that good news? I am almost positive, just based on what I can remember from giving predictions last week, I think the underdogs actually were above 500 winning outright. With Houston, Texas Tech. God, who else won last week? I can't remember. Colorado. Yeah. Well, no, Colorado was a couple weeks ago, but I do remember.
Wasn't it last week?
No, I think Kansas
Against
State or
against UCF.
Utah didn't play last week. UCF was a favorite on the road to Florida, and that wasn't even
that's
close.
right.
Oh yeah, they lost that one.
That was disgusting, but a lot of outright winners. So
Sell.
good picks on you guys. I really don't want to give this one. I don't
Take
want to do it.
Washington. You can find somewhere else to sleep.
Nope, not going to take Washington. I feel even worse about this one. Give me Florida on the road. Plus 15.5 against the Volunteers.
It's such a spot where they look so bad. You're like, that's tough.
Yep. It looks terrible. Night game in Knoxville. Knoxville night game.
I don't understand.
This is a disaster waiting to happen. If there's one thing Billy Napier has done in his tenure at Florida, it's play Tennessee tough. It's try, and it's play Tennessee tough. And giving up 2 touchdowns in this one, play tough. And I'm going to need an all-world performance out of the Florida defensive line that has not looked great in some spots. But hey, I know UCF is kind of a dumpster fire at this point, but they looked good against those athletes at UCF at home last week. They look good. We've seen Nico in that offense kind of sputter the last 2 weeks. I'm not really so sure what to expect. Florida defense is really bad, but something's got to give, right? Something's got to give. And it wouldn't be a dog's dog pick without me picking a 15, 16, 17 point spread. It's only right.
Hey, if Florida didn't win that game last week, I don't think Billy Napier would have woke up on Sunday with the job. This game.
I thought the exact same thing, but Dave Aranda woke up with a job on Sunday, so that was surprising. Also, we're walking out of the stadium on Saturday night, and we were like, just whatever. We were doing what we were doing, me and my buddy Max, and we were like one of the last people in the stadium. So we walk out, and the entire Baylor families are all sitting right there waiting for the guys to get out of the locker room. And then there are the staff members. And as we walk by the staff members, my buddy Max goes, "Dave's gonna have a job tomorrow." And the look of disgust on the director of personnel's face, or whatever job he had, was, "What do you mean Dave's gonna have a job? Stupid question." All right, fine. 2 weeks, your buddy won't have a job, I guess. Whatever. That was the shenanigans we were up to on Saturday
on Max
night.
for one of those.
Not proud of it. But before we get out of here, fellas, do we want to we did this to you, Jordan, when you were gone that one day. I think we should just give Parks a dog's dog. Just pick one out of a hat and say,
after we all had so many choices.
If you got to pick this one, because I think me and Parks gave him Wyoming, and then Wyoming got just slaughtered. That's when you wanted to give him Vanderbilt.
You remember when I was going to give him Vanderbilt?
Give him Colorado.
Yep. I was thinking about giving him Colorado.
I think he'd be more pissed at that.
I was thinking about giving him Colorado. What I did have, here you go. Here you go, Parks. Here's a good one for you. Let's take South Carolina on the road plus 21 against Alabama. I think there's some spots.
I didn't say anything.
I think there's some spots that we can get after this Alabama defense. I think Lenoris go for 100 rushing yards if he's healthy. But I thought he looked good last week.
No, besides you watched the game.
Besides throwing some picks, all right.
Besides doing everything you're not supposed to do.
So you should have took Vanderbilt again. Vanderbilt plays Kentucky.
Yeah, that's a good bounce back. Shouts to Cole Kublik. He claims, SEC knower, he claims that South Carolina, or Vandy, does a lot of good things that South Carolina does as well offensively. So maybe there's a weak spot, or maybe they might just beat South Carolina by 7 points because they lost to Vanderbilt last week. All right. Good show, fellas. Week 7 is in the books. We look on to week 8. Before we get out of here, any closing thoughts? Anything?
Concert time.
JP, who are we going to see tonight?
Coulter Wall. You ever heard of him? Damn good.
I actually have.
What's the name? Good name of song.
I'm
good stuff. Look up Cowpoke.
Exact same boat. All right. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, Reese, what should they do?
Like, comment, subscribe. Just hit that button. Hit the follow button. Get a friend to hit the follow button too.
And Jordan, what is the code that they should use at shopnorivals.com?
PTFS.
PTFS gets them free shipping.
No Rivals, shout out.
All right. I got to send us out since I don't have Cam telling me to do it. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, got to play.